before she got sick, Pastor Jeri had written her sermon for this morning. So she emailed it to me last night. And I'm over here because we've got them like in for repair and ground roots. But before I begin, I promised her a disclaimer. The opinions expressed in this sermon are the opinions of management and not necessarily those of the speaker. A few days ago, I happened to see an article on Facebook called "You've Got Winter Posture." And I was intrigued. Why would winter make a difference in whether I stand up straight or not? And then I realized as I was reading it that this article was on a website called Lumo that sells devices that are supposedly to help people stand up straight by reminding them of an alarm, I guess. And I thought it obviously couldn't help me much with my posture on Sunday when I wear a pectoral cross that is made of solid silver and seems to weigh a ton, even though it doesn't make my digital scale budge at all. I just can't believe that. But I read the article and it made me think. Here's what it said. We're headed straight into the festive holiday season where we surround ourselves with delicious food and great company. Fun festivities aside, one downside to the end of year season is the drop in temperature that chills our bones and our posture. And I would interject that we feel the chill even in Humboldt County, don't we? The writer continued, as I write this in our refrigerator of an office, I have to admit that my posture is terrible. I'm hunched over, my shoulders are up to my ears, and from a week of sitting like this, my back and neck pains are back. I brought this up in our company break room the other day when a woman told me about the Canadian walk, an endearing term for that scrunched up, tense posture in which Canadians walk around in order to fight the almost unbearable cold. Key features of this walk are clenched jaws, tensed and rolled in shoulders, and a tightened core. This walk or posture is not just limited to folks in Canada. We see it often in offices with underindulgent heating or overeager air conditioning units, schools, homes, outside in the cold, etc. When the temperature drops, we instinctively curl up to reduce surface area to stop heat from escaping our bodies. A natural progression of this is to hunch over to huddle our core to keep our key organs warm and functioning. Great for survival. Not so great for your posture. So as I was thinking about today's gospel lesson, I remembered that article. This is the beginning of our year of Luke, which is exciting. So many of our favorite parables are found in the book of Luke. But today, as with the first Sunday of Advent every year, we have an apocalyptic text about the end of days. As Nadia Bowles-Weber explains about the apocalyptic genre, apocalyptic texts were often code for speaking about the world the people at that time lived in. They were a way for people in politically dangerous situations to speak the truth about power. They were more commentary than prediction. And yes, they are disturbing texts, but partly because they represent a genre that we just aren't familiar with. Sort of like if science fiction ceased being a genre 2,000 years from now, but the TV show Battlestar Galactica was still seen. And the people in the year 4000, rather than understanding it to be a commentary about pride and what it means to be human, saw Battlestar Galactica as a prediction of the future and waited around staring at the sky, anticipating Cylon attacks. That doesn't mean that all apocalyptic texts are invalidated because of genre, but it does mean that they're not meant to be crystal balls. So at the beginning of the season of Advent, which means coming, we look at this cryptic passage. And what do we see? We see a time when the scariest thing people could imagine was natural disasters. Eclipses, meteor showers, earthquakes, and tsunamis. A time when the whole known world was to be found nearby. Asia, Africa, and mostly southern Europe. And what Jesus says about these fear-producing events is that fear will come, but not for long. He says that the coming of the Son of Man will be preceded by the warmth of summer, as shown in the sprouting leaves of the fig tree. It will be time to stand up straight and raise one's head because the harvest will be near. But turning to our own culture and time, there is much we feel concerned about, maybe this year especially. There are many things that frighten us. We huddle in the cold of our inhumanity to each other. We slump over in our winter posture, trying desperately to protect the internal organs that keep us alive as our eyes dart from side to side looking for potential threats. Is the threat in those who are different from us? Is the threat in those who have already proved that they intend to hurt or kill us? Is the threat in those who distort the truth in order to serve their own ends? Is the threat in those who would ask us to change our practices, our generosity, perhaps to cast aside fear? If this were a different kind of church, and if I had a different theology, you might expect that I would use this text to point out that Jesus will be returning soon. But one of Jesus' sentences says, "Truly I tell you, this generation will not pass away until all things have taken place." We might imagine that Luke's community, sharing Jesus' story with each other, were perplexed that Jesus still had not returned to set things right. As theologian G. Lee Ramsey states, undergoing persecution at the hands of the Romans, uncertain about their own survival, fearful of the consequences of swearing loyalty to Christ against Caesar, the hearers of Luke's gospel needed strong reassurance that if the world was coming to an end, or at least their understanding of it, still God would not abandon them. With the Jerusalem temple in ruins, all that Jesus warned about seemed to have come to pass. Luke says to them, "Hold on, Christ is coming." It's as if things will be heating up. Summer will be approaching. They will need to stand tall and give their bodies a chance to dissipate the heat. There won't be any need for winter posture. Stand up. Be alert. Those are the words Jesus uses. We seem to look at Luke's community's situation from the wrong end of the telescope. They seem far away from us. But as I think about God's warming us, bringing us closer to a time when fear has no more hold over us, I think also of other biological metaphors. Although we can be warmed from outside through radiant heat, we can also be warmed from inside. We increase our activity and warm up. We drink hot liquids and warm up. And for some of us, like me, when we assess our thyroid hormone, our master gland that sets our body's thermostat, we find that we don't produce enough. It isn't helping us to stay warm. We need more of the hormone that will help our bodies to have energy, to be able to live vibrantly, and to share the fruits of our efforts with others. Our text from 1 Thessalonians can lead the way. This section from the first of Paul's letters is full of joy and encouragement to a new congregation. Paul speaks of seeing them face to face, and he prays that the Lord will increase their love for each other and for all, and strengthen their hearts in holiness. Let's imagine that the spiritual equivalent of thyroid hormone might be meeting face to face, thanking God for each other because of the joy we feel in each other's presence, warming from the inside as we share Christ's peace and receive the communion of his body and blood. As our blood is warmed for service and our bodies are energized through holy work, then we stand up and raise our heads and are strong. That is Advent posture. He came once for all. He continues to come to each and all of us. And he will come again in a future that we can only imagine in faith and hope. The cold is dissipating. The warmth is coming. Stand up.